Ready to engage. 4, 3, 2, 1, engage.
Welcome to episode 56 of the Band of Gamers podcast. Welcome back. We enjoy having you with us every week, or we weren't here last week, so every other week sometimes. And this week, I'm joined by two very good friends, DBQHams.
It's good to be back, even if I'm living out of boxes behind me. But thanks for letting me move, and glad to be back here talking with you guys.
And Zeuxidamas.
There are also lots of boxes in my new house, but I have moved them either out of the room or shoved them into the closet.
And my name is Greylock3491, and I noticed my little tag there at the bottom of the screen disappeared. I thought that was persistent. I have to add that every time?
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
man.
I don't know. It depends. I've been able to get it. Sometimes when I set it once, it'll show up the next time that I log in, but not always.
Oh, yours is back.
Oh, really? Yeah, I haven't even. It's not even showing. Oh, that's because I'm not in my viewport.
And I'm, like I said, Greylock3491, and this is episode 56, and I am so disorganized. I didn't even move. Well, I moved from one side of the room to the other, but I didn't, like, move states and jobs and all that. Like these two guys did. These two guys who somehow found the way to make the podcast tonight. And we're going to start, like we do every week, by talking about what we've played. But I'm not going to start this week because I'm, like, totally frazzled. So I'm going to pitch it over to the guy whose name begins with D. DBQHams. What did you play? Did you play anything this week?
Oh yeah, I finally last Thursday hooked up my Xbox One again for the first time since the end of July, 3.5 weeks or so. So between, I started my new job on August 1st. I was living in a dorm room because my family was still back in a different state. And so, but I did bring my Xbox in case, but I never even hooked it up. But I did a lot of PC gaming over the first 2 weeks of this new job. Pretty intense, long days, 10, 11-hour days at some times. And so really what I found myself playing on the PC was going back to something that was kind of just fluff. So I played some Diablo 3. I played some Marvel Heroes 2016 or whatever year they keep changing it so their Metacritic score increases. But again, that basically the Diablo-like action RPG with Marvel Heroes. So, and that was enjoyable. It was after a long day of trying to figure out how everything else at my new job works. I was just fine to click on things that were shiny and hold down a button to keep shooting my Iron Man lasers. So I did that, but the impetus for rehooking up my Xbox was one, the upstairs looks a whole lot better than the downstairs here that you can see behind me. And so we're getting settled in, everything's painted, things are up against walls now, so I can hook up the TV and the Xbox. Got that going, and I got a chance to play some of the Titanfall 2 alpha with fellow Kagger, World Voyager. So he and I played a little bit on Saturday morning, and then we played again on Saturday night. And the game even changed between then. It was just really interesting that some of the mechanics are still, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. And we talked about it somewhat on the forums if you're interested, or there's some discussion going on there on Casual Adult Gamers. But really the thing we noticed in the Saturday morning one was the time to Titan. So there's a lot of mechanics that have changed. Did you guys, either one of you, get to play? Okay. So I'm going to just briefly cut a few mechanics. So in the first Titanfall, you had a timer, right? And that timer is always ticking, and there's a person up in the upper box saying, "Oh, 2 minutes till Titan drop," or "Your Titan is almost ready," right? You had that kind of constant sense. Now, the Titan works almost not quite like a kill streak, but you have to achieve objectives in the game, whether you're rodeoing a Titan, capping a hard point in like a domination game, capping a control point, or killing other players. And so the more that you do that, or even the grunts, the specters from the first game, the more you do that, you're earning and you're filling up this meter to be able to get your Titan. So it has the potential to fill up relatively quickly. On Reddit, there's people who can get it within a minute and a half, even sometimes less, depending on what they're doing or what the map is. But that kind of general ebb and flow of the game where regardless of what's going on, you're going to get that chance for the Titan to kind of move around, to feel that sense of empowerment. And so here, there were some matches where I had the Titan 3 times, and there were some matches where I only got it once. And that's it just changes that mechanic. The pilots in the first game were very quick, and you were doing a lot of wall running. Wall running still exists in this, but it feels, I don't know, it almost feels a little like the atmosphere is too heavy on whatever planet they're on, right? To think about it within the in-universe context, that they're moving slower, the pace of the run is slower, and when you're on the wall, you're definitely moving, but you're moving, it doesn't feel nearly as fluid as the first one. Again, so this is a technical alpha, so they're hopefully tweaking things, which they did. When we booted it up on Saturday night, there was a screen up that said, we've tweaked some Titan mechanics, we've added some things, we've increased the timers, or the meters. So they're hopefully taking some feedback from it. It was both World Voyager and I went back and played a little bit of Titanfall 1 just to get a comparison. And it's hard to do that. It's a technical alpha and versus a polished finished product that's been patched. And so, yeah, the world feels more alive. It's more fluid. It's running. It looks really good and feels really fun to play. I had more fun playing Titanfall 1 than I did playing the alpha so far. But even the difference, I guess the positive thing for me is that somebody was really excited about this game because I came to Titanfall 1 late, but really enjoyed it. So I was excited about this game, looking forward to it. The idea of a single player, that's great. The benefit of the test, I guess, is that I enjoyed playing Saturday night more than I did Saturday morning. So it's gone to a game that I was probably going to, I felt really excited about pre-ordering, to one that I'm going to wait and see what the next beta looks like, play it some more, use my EA access to get 10 hours in and see if it's something I really want to stick around with. So it's not, there's plenty of Reddit threads out there about people who are saying they've changed way too much, but they've definitely tried to take it in a different direction a little bit. So we'll see how it all shakes out. That's a long rant for me, but I haven't been talking for a while, and it's a new game, so.
So DB, when you said Marvel Heroes earlier, did you really mean Marvel Heroes, or did you mean Marvel Ultimate Alliance?
No, I did not mean the remastered, buggy, latent frame rate Marvel Ultimate Alliance that got re-released. I meant Marvel Heroes, the what is it, Gazillion developer, the Diablo-like. Yep, free to play.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I had picked up 2 characters on a Steam sale this summer for like $2.50. So for the first time, I could go over level 10 without just busting out of. Again, the game it's fun, but it's kind of just, it's popcorn. There's not any substance to it, and I played it a little bit last year and playing again this year. There's a whole lot of free-to-play mechanics built into it to load up your inventory with daily check-ins and everything else. And also, as it loads up your inventory, it encourages you to expand your inventory with a purchase, right? So, but the gameplay is fun.
Now that's a game. So who Who was it that used to do Champions? Was that the people who used to do Champions came off of Champions to do DCUO? Is that correct?
I'm gonna look it up right now. Fact checking as we go. Champions of Norath, right?
No, Champions. It was the superhero Morpig that was grown from the old tabletop RPG Champions.
Oh yeah, yep. So not City of Heroes, but Champions.
No,
Yes.
I think City of Heroes is the actual game title. I think
Okay, so there is City of Heroes. There's Champion Online, which was 2009, which was Cryptic.
Okay. The more recent and more successful one was City of Heroes.
City
right?
of Heroes. Yep.
Okay. And are those the guys who went on to do DCUO?
I
Okay.
do not know.
Right.
Okay, so we don't have to fact check as we go. I'll jump back in and answer this. But so Zeus, while I'm looking up your questions and doing research for you, as a good librarian should, what have you been playing?
So yeah, I'll run that down. I just want to mention. So the reason I asked is that the advent of superhero RPGs coming as Morpigs was the closest I've gotten to dipping my toes into a Morpig, but I have still continued to abstain, and it's unfortunate because I want to either that I think either that team that was doing City of Heroes wound up being paid a lot of money to go off and do either DCUO or Marvel, so they wound up letting that City of Heroes one, I guess, coast down and become less maintained. My only problem with DCU and Marvel is it's so centered around playing a known superhero, whereas for me, particularly from the pen and paper tabletop RPG days, like the games I loved playing, because there was a DC role playing game and there was a Marvel role playing game, but what I liked playing were games where you created your own hero. So
City of Heroes was NCSoft, and they've gone on to do WildStar, which is kind of that Ratchet and Clank type of art style.
Okay. Gotcha. So I'll run down mine hopefully pretty quickly, and I apologize. I just mowed the yard from the first time at my new place, which took me about an hour on a riding lawnmower. So my nose is full of grass right now. And or pollen, and that's causing me some allergy issues. But if you look at the titles in my recently played list, it's older titles: Project Cars, TEC 3001, Need for Speed Most Wanted, all things which I've talked about on this show as having played in 2016, so pretty recently. The reason for that is. So when I got here and I got all of this set up, I brought up my Lenovo Y50, which is my primary gaming laptop, and wound up using the GeForce Experience app, which typically runs in my tray, and took down the latest GeForce driver update, which is a driver that posted on the 15th of August. So this all happened last week. So I pulled that down, and after pulling it down and installing those drivers, that system did not boot. It would come up and the cursor would flash and the hard drive light would flash, but it would not boot to Windows. So I went through a lot of troubleshooting, tried system restores, none of those worked. Actually went so far as to restore an old image of that machine that I had from April. And at that point, I had not yet isolated the culprit to the GeForce driver, so I pulled down the GeForce drivers again after blowing the install image onto a new SSD that I threw into that machine, and immediately experienced the same problems. So I wound up factory resetting the machine, and wiping all of my data and doing a fresh install of Windows 10. So the machine is up and running on that machine. I have not pulled down that August 15th GeForce driver update, and it's running fine. But yes, have I played some games? Yes, but most of it has been in the name of attempting to test and troubleshoot and prove out system stability on a new install on that system. So, my Xbox One and PS4 and PS3 and my NVIDIA Shield Android TV, lots of those things are hooked up, but I have pretty much not gotten the chance to play anything but PC games again in the wake of restoring that system. So I've done a lot of gaming. I could not necessarily say all of it was fun. In Need for Speed Most Wanted, probably the best thing was somewhat best thing is it was really late night gaming session, and I was really really wanting to go to bed. I wrapped up a race. And I had heat on me at the end of the race, and of course I can't quit the game and go to bed in the middle of a cop chase. So I insisted on trying to lose the cops, and it turned into literally about a 1 hour pursuit before I was able to successfully evade the cops. So I wound up in bed at sometime past 1 a.m. and I evaded the cops, but it was very ugly. Very stop and go, so I would evade the cops for 10 seconds before I would get wrecked again. I switched to 3 or 4 different cars, so it's not what I would call a successful gaming session, but it happened, and I recorded it, and it's now posted on YouTube, which incidentally in the new place, uploading a uploading a 2 gig video takes 44 seconds. Uploading a 14 or a 10 gig video. I can't remember exactly what it is. I would say uploading a 15 gig video takes 5 minutes. So
That's not too bad for speed, though.
No, not at all.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
What I really want to see, though, is the end of that video clip where you're exhausted. And what is your commentary as you're trying to go to bed and just get away from the cops at the same time?
Yeah. Well, when I posted it on social media, I think the tagline was "I just want to go to sleep," because there were times in that video where I was like, "Oh, I just want to go to sleep." Yeah. But I guess I don't know if it's being a completionist or I guess I'm a little obsessive about where I end my gameplay. And like I said, I just refuse to just bounce out of the game. I like to end the game by parking the car. Because I've mentioned in that game the way you get into different cars is you kind of find them in parking spots. So if you tap from the live menu change car, it doesn't swap you into a car. It gives you a GPS waypoint to drive to pick the car up from where it's parked. So that's kind of how I insist on ending the game. So that's my own personal obsession, which isn't necessary, but there it is. So Gray, what about you? What have you been playing, man?
Well, I've gotten to sleep before 1 most nights, so I'm a little bit better than you. And now my computer crashed a couple of weeks ago, so I know the pain. I actually went back to Windows 7 on my G75 because I was having issues with Windows. It kept losing important files I had on my D drive, and I just at the end of it came down to thinking that it must be a compatibility issue with the laptop hardware in Windows 10 and the hardware that accesses the hard drive, whether it's SATA or whatever it is internally. So I went back to Windows 7. Haven't had a problem since. So kind of sad, but there's no guarantee a 5-year-old laptop's going to run Windows 10. And I found out the hard way. Having said that, been playing a lot of Division, going through the Division. A friend of mine just got it, Mace Fight, and so me and Spyro has been playing with him, taking a break from Destiny a little bit to play through Division from scratch again, and enjoying it. It's fun. As long as you don't expect to be able to save many guns because your stash is so small. And, I just sell everything, all the extra stuff I get that I don't need. And kind of like Destiny, you just make weapon pots out of it. In Division, I just sell everything I don't need. So having fun. It's a fun game. Very vulgar. I wish there was a profanity switch like they have in other games. I think Gears of War was one that had one. I think we've talked about this before. But it's like sound travels outside the room. I can keep the images in the room, but the sound travels outside the room. So Ubisoft, come on, get on the ball. You can add that in very easily.
Great. Does the game play any different than it did 5 months ago during launch? I mean, does it feel like they've tweaked things in terms of uh, gun damage, or it's really just been kind of adding and tweaking the end game stuff? I mean, going back through the story missions, does the pace feel any different, or they still feel like bullet sponges?
To me, it feels identical. I don't notice a change at all. There probably are some, but I don't notice any changes at all, and I enjoy it. It's enjoyable. I'm a little bit of a completionist where I want to clean out a block, and get all those side missions done. But in the same token, I have to remind I have to remind Spiral and Mace. It's like they're like, oh, there's some baddies over there. I'm like, yeah, just like in Destiny, those guys keep respawning. All right, we've already killed them 5 times. We're just gonna run by them now. And that's kind of what we do in Destiny. After a while, you're going through areas to get to new missions, and there's just the random people who spawn, and it's not always advantageous to, if you're just leaving your safe house with a full load of med packs and bullets, why beat up on these NPCs that keep respawning and respawning and respawning, so. But no, I enjoy. It's a fun game. It's a fun co-op game. I like that it has 4-player slots and not 3, like unlike Destiny. I wish I had more. I know there's a way to get more people to get in the same area and on the same server as you, but it'd be nice if they would let 8 people join in. It'd be a lot of fun. The other game I was playing, so I was really watching No Man's Sky. Was very interested in the game. I love the look of the game. I guess the biggest problem with it is it has no multiplayer, and it's not on the Xbox One, right? So I could buy it and play it on my computer, right, which is great. But Xbox One is where most of my friends are. It's the easiest thing for me to play when I just want to plop down on the couch. And, I do remote stream to my laptop from Xbox One, and I can do that with my PC as well with Steam. But, so I was looking at the Xbox One, and I'm like, I want a game like No Man's Sky that has multiplayer. There's no Star Citizen, there's no Eve, there's no No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky doesn't have multiplayer. So I went out and bought Elite Dangerous. They now include the Horizon expansion with it, or Season Pass with it. And at first it was very challenging to learn how to fly my ship and learn how to navigate. I don't think the tutorials that come with it are that good. They have a lot of tutorials, but I think it needs, kind of, you start the game, you basically start the game in a ship. So when you go to start the game, you're in the cockpit of a ship. So I think they should add a little, maybe a 2-minute preface or CGI video or something, just to kind of set the, set it up, set the beginning of the game up, right? But once I learned how to fly my ship and do missions, and I got an upgrade so I could at least travel out of the few star systems I was stranded in, it really, really got interesting. And I did a planetary landing, and I drove my buggy around, and it's like a moon buggy, or like a, I don't know, one of those buggies are on Mars right now. The 6-wheeled or 8-wheeled rovers, and man, that was fun to drive around on the surface of a moon-like planet and look for stuff. And hyperspace is cool. You always come out right in front of a sun, and of course there's all kinds of different suns, and they just look gorgeous. And I actually put on my YouTube channel and on the CAG Facebook page a video, just some snapshots, just some videos from this week. But I guess the highlight was that my good buddy World Voyager has the game as well. And I think some other of my friends have it, but none of them responded to me on CAG or Facebook. So, but World Voyager, not World Voyager, I'm sorry, Wonder Boy V2 has the game as well. And so Wonder Boy traveled like a bazillion light years to meet up with me, because I only could travel like 10 light years before my hyperspace drive wouldn't let me make any more jumps because it was too far away. So Wonder Boy V2 flew halfway across the galaxy, it seemed, to meet up with me. And so I have a friend in the galaxy, out of 400 billion stars out there. I have at least a friend that I can now go on missions and bounties and do stuff with. So a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. It definitely seems like a game that I will be streaming to my laptop just while my wife is watching Some of those, you know, the wedding dress shows, and I always forget the names of these shows, but shows that I'm not interested in. Um, a lot of the house shows, the home shows, the property selling and fixing up shows. So, but it's a lot of fun, and I love the fact that you can play solo, co-op, or open world, and no matter which one you pick, you have the same gear. You have your same ships, you have your same dough, you have everything's the same. And I also love that the developer, they were at Gamescom last week, and they have a ton of plans for the game enhancements, and they're releasing simultaneously on PC and Xbox One. Now, there's no cross-buy, there's no cross-play. I wish there was. That would be cool. But even so, very interesting game. It's really like an open-world survival game because you're traveling from planet to planet, space station to space station to space station, trying to, either collect bounties or deliver cargo or deliver data, or one of the many. You can actually become a pirate if you want to. So that's really what I play the most of. And if you want to see my clips, just head over to the CAG Facebook group, or head over to the CAG website, and you'll see. I think it's a couple-minute clip of just some of the stuff I did. And I actually got stuck on a planet for a time in my rover. I thought I was going to die, but finally my ship came back and picked me up. So a lot of interesting stuff happened in Elite Dangerous. So really enjoying it. And that's really my playlist. Any questions?
Yeah, and I was very tempted to hijack our thread and spool off in another direction, but I'm just going to throw this out, and maybe we can revisit it in an upcoming episode. I find it incredibly interesting as all of us talk through it, and I know, DB, you've been displaced, so your gaming habits may not be your norm, and same for me. But even with you, Gray, the biggest releases of last year, and I mean literally, if you go back to our shows from last year, literally what we talked about almost definitely for the second half of the year were Rainbow Six Siege, Star Wars Battlefront, The Division, Destiny. It was all of these class-based, role-based, first-person or third-person shooters in persistent worlds that had no single-player campaign. That was the year 2015. At least 50 to 60, 70% of the gaming content, and it's a lot of what we talked about. And when I look at the 2016 fall lineup coming up, that's not what it is. It's much more traditional gaming titles that we were accustomed to seeing in Generation 7. And we're not spending the amount of time that we're spending talking about games of that ilk is definitely tapering off. We still talked about it a good amount, mostly in terms of revisiting some of those games that maybe we didn't find out to be everything that we wanted them to be. And I don't know. I think in small chunks they were our be all end all to certain short periods of gaming. But my point is that I think it'd be an interesting discussion to have later about what that means, what that dynamic means, and how we feel about it. Was that kind of a flash in the pan fad? Do we expect to not see a lot of those games this fall, but see a bunch of them come back in 2017, or what? It's just interesting as I kind of heard you guys going through your list and kind of harken back to. You would think that we would still be talking about all those games now, and that basically we would all be playing like 3 different games, right? We would have picked 3 of those titles from last year, and being that they're kind of sort of Morpigs almost, or MOPOAs, that they would be occupying all of our gaming time.
So, in true Bandit Gamers podcast fashion, I will be the disagreement here. So I think the one thing that popped up on our radar for an episode, but really hasn't been something we've been talking about, but looking out in terms of online users, Blizzard's Overwatch is, multiplayer only, class-based shooter, very much in that kind of Counter-Strike Go, Team Fortress 2, but with a whole lot of character and class. And it's done. I would be hard pressed to think that it hasn't owned the summer in terms of server numbers outside of bigger established PC games, into your MOBAs, things like that. Yeah, so I think that there's still a place for that. I think that it is something that people chased after for a long time, and the pie is not nearly as big as what people probably thought. Right? Just ask the Battleborn developers as well, right? That it's not. It was something that people were hunting after. Of that, it's the multiplayer stuff that keeps us coming back. But really, the multiplayer things in in Rainbow Six Siege and Battlefront were all traditional kind of PvP multiplayer competitive, where something like Destiny and the Division came out this spring, and yeah, I mean, Gray, you stuck with it more than any of us. But again, it's that idea of the co-op aspect of it, and so I think that there's still a place for that co-op focused gameplay. But at the same time, I think about, like you said, the fall releases outside of your standard shooters, between Battlefront and Titanfall and Call of Duty, which are going to see more legs on the multiplayer mode, although all three of those have gotten better press coverage based on their single-player stories, right? I mean, the fact that Infinity Ward's gone back to the drawing board and kind of come up with a new setting, that Titanfall 2 has a single-player story, and the big piece with Battlefront is, not Battlefront, with Battlefield, is that they're doing a lot of, granted it's not completely historically accurate, but they're setting it. They're using, the Harlem Hellfighters. They're pulling up some smaller stories from history to accent that single player story. So, but it does feel like, I agree with you. If we looked back a year ago at this time, we were all looking forward to some big multiplayer games, and right now, heading into the fall, I don't know that I'm. It just feels. It doesn't feel like there's that same level of excitement.
I just want to chime in. I think there are some games that, they're going to be multiplayer only, and maybe these have or will get single player campaigns someday, but I doubt it. I think Unreal Tournament, right? The first Unreal game, it was a single player game with multiplayer bolted on, but once Unreal Tournament came out, that was all about the multiplayer, and Overwatch is all about multiplayer. And even Splatoon, I wouldn't expect Splatoon to have a single-player story. When I look at these games, I understand what they are. They are multiplayer focused. I expect them to have multiple modes. I don't expect them just to have one mode, like they only have capture the flag. That is it, right? That would be lame. Okay, that would be Rainbow Six Siege. Okay, that's you're not getting your money's worth. But if they have many maps and many modes, that is your traditional, to me, that's your Unreal Tournament type of game, right? And that's, to me, Overwatch and Splatoon and other games in that ilk. Now, I think something where we look at, and even Battlefront, I always thought of a Battlefront. I never thought of a Battlefront of having a single player campaign that I would go through. It's a multiplayer game with lots of modes. So I think it was really a full package. My only problem with Battlefront, and I love the game, I think it's gorgeous. It's a lot of fun. We had several matches with the CAG friends before the first of the year, and I totally enjoyed it. Was the fact that the co-op side was only 2 players, and that's really what disappointed me. But besides that, I think the game is phenomenal. It has tons of modes, tons of maps, and even without the DLC, there's a lot there. I just wish I had more co-op. How do you only play with one other person? A couch co-op split screen, I think that's fine. But these days you need, and even Destiny's 3-player is still very limiting. But if we go and look at something like a Rainbow Six Siege, I mean that's a game that has a heritage of having co-op single-player campaign, and then very robust multiplayer, and then co-op Terra Sun. Okay, and basically the new game was just Terra Sun, and so that's to me. And I actually own the game. I got it for the holidays, and played it once. And hopefully it goes on sale so I can talk my friends into getting it because you can actually play 5-on-5, which is fun. But yeah, I think I'm glad to see Titanfall 2 is getting a single player campaign. That is more of the Call of Duty type of game where you expect a robust single player and then really really popular multiplayer. And I would like to see more games do that. But I think we'll always have those multiplayer only games that's just what they do. Hopefully they will continue to do multiple modes and not just try to do one mode and charge you $60. It's a little ridiculous. And but I love the full games like a Halo 5 and a Destiny and a Call of Duty. You get a single player campaign, which you can play in the case of Destiny and Halo 5, you can play through co-op, and then you get arena type, Crucible type matches you can do. So that's the full boat, right? So it's thoroughly enjoyable and well worth our $60. Or tell me I'm wrong.
So Zeus, do we get at your question? I mean, do you feel like this was a fluke in terms of the way that this generation's taking its AAA franchises, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I don't know. And I suspect and I wonder that there's a lot of things behind the scenes. Like, I think there's definitely an outstanding question about how those games are monetized that may be driving a change in the level of interest. It just seems that the big because I'm trying to think. I want to say like every single one of the big publishers went that route last year, right? And so I feel like there was a very strong enthusiasm and a notion that this was the future of gaming, that it was going to be more about these massive multiplayer games and persistent universes, and less about and games that would therefore be iterated upon with multiple releases and expansion packs and season passes and all that. And I feel like somewhere between last year, last fall and this summer, there's been a unilateral change from the game development community in propping up those properties. I think part of it too is my sense of it is that the teams required to pull games like that off is huge, like larger than just your basic AAA like single player game, and then a lot of those people have to be retained for maintenance. So, like I said, that's a lot of inside baseball that we don't have access to, but it definitely feels like something tangible that in 2015 that was all the rage, and this year we've heard pretty much not one peep about a game built on that same model, right? Since the release of Overwatch and Battleborn near the beginning of the summer, and it doesn't formulate. It's not. Those are not the descriptive attributes of most of your big games that are coming out this fall. That feels very strange. It feels like if that was a trend and it were successful, that would have continued into the fall. So I just thought it was interesting. And kind of like you said, like I have every single one of those games, right? In fact, I criticized a lot of those games before they were ever released, but I'll be doggone if I didn't buy every single one, right? And I have spent an incredibly small amount of time. I probably spent most of my time in Destiny. But I think I played The Division like one weekend. I played Battlefront pretty much in single player mode, and that's it. And I don't think I've even brought Rainbow Six Siege. I've never even booted it at all. It's just in my Steam account. And probably the most enjoyable thing I've played this year from a multiplayer perspective has been Halo 5.
Yeah, and I wonder on the Halo 5 part, is it that multiplayer of the four-player co-op, or is it the competitive multiplayer aspects? And I think that to your point in thinking about this fall, because I agree, this fall feels very traditional, unlike last fall, as we were looking forward to another Destiny expansion and Battlefront, kind of pushing that envelope of what really the value is of a $60 game, and with the Division on the horizon, I think part of that is, and you guys hit it on the head, is that those take huge teams to, at least for the Division and Destinies. I mean, Destiny ran into that this year with the content drought of, their live team not being big enough or active enough to support the player base. But I think, those two games were very much a product of ideas that were pitched during the transition from last generation to this generation, with all the hopes and dreams about what a new generation would be. And then you have, Battlefront and Rainbow Six and Overwatch kind of pulling in the other direction of saying, people just, this is where the market is. How do we, get money out of battle packs and other things in terms of microtransactions? So I think those are two ways that the industry is still kind of swinging, and this fall it feels like they're not even going to try to. Well, I shouldn't say that. It feels very safe, right? After spending a couple years of trying and experimenting, this fall feels pretty safe.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Hey guys, looking to move on to community news. We don't have much of it right now. I do have a shout out to two of our listeners who have, over the course of the last couple of weeks, I found out they were listeners, and they asked me questions or commented on the podcast. First is MU Jedi and his son have been listening in the car, and just want to shout out to them. Great guys. Actually met Lance at a LAN party we got together years ago, CAG LAN party, and actually I met him at the Football Hall of Fame because I didn't know he was going there. So I was doing some sightseeing before the LAN party, and so I was kind of shocked to bump into him. But great guy to game with if you would get the game with MU Jedi. And then Stone Cold Chaos. So I was trading back Xbox messages back and forth, and we started talking. And actually, launch week, I actually played some. Last time I played with Stone Cold was launch week when the Division came out. So a great guy. We also he had a LAN party down his way in Pittsburgh a few years ago. We had a blast. And Red Eyes was there, and Paper City, and just so many people were there. Magnum PI, and I know I'm forgetting somebody, and it's and I'm sorry to leave anybody out, but I'm trying to remember the group photo. But so a shout out to two of our CAG members and old friends, and I've invited them both to be guests on the show. They just have to get their check their webcams and make sure everything's working. So maybe we'll have a couple of new people join us here in the future.
And we should mention that Stone Cold is a former cast member as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think even when I was on the show, you guys were had him on the show, right?
Well, there was an era of the show that it was the three of us, you, me, and Stone Cold.
Wow, I am going senile.
That'd be great to have him back then.
Yeah.
Yes, it would. It would. I got all those original podcasts somewhere. Someday I'm going to republish them. So when I don't have all of them, but I have a lot of the ones that I edited and uploaded. So we'll get those up there at some point. But yeah, the Zeus Stone Gray show. I got to listen to those, man. Those are going to be great. Those are going to be good. In any case, now we're going to move on to our next segment, the news. And I'm going to start this one by saying I'm really, really surprised about all the reviews of No Man's Sky. Now, the game looks gorgeous. I know it doesn't have multiplayer, okay? But it looks gorgeous, looks very interesting, looks like a very fun exploration game. And most of the sites I regularly visit are giving it 6s. 6 to me is really bad. So, and then I'm hearing a lot of people saying it's crashing a lot, which on PC I understand. On PlayStation, I'm kind of confused because I thought they kind of go through and make sure that's not going to happen. So I don't know what's going on. But I'm surprised. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that, but very surprised. Last time I checked Metacritic, it was hovering around a 7. But with all the hype on this game, and people should be going in knowing this is a very small development company, that it's getting such low marks. I think IGN, who did so many stories on it, is gave it a 6, I believe. So just a little shocked that people are being really hard on the game, because it looks like it's doing everything from what I've seen when I watch the reviews. It looks like it's doing everything that they said they was going to do. So maybe people just wanted more, or the hype train got out of control. So you guys have any comments on that? Will you guys have the same reaction about those reviews? Anybody?
My feeling is this is almost unequivocally an issue where the media and Sony themselves are a bit to blame for hyping this game kind of in a Peter Molyneux kind of fashion, that this game was going to be just like this amazing departure from like every other approach to game design ever. And I don't really know that the development team is at fault for that. I don't know how much of it. I think the one controversy that I've seen that they're definitely at the center of is they kind of took a not fully transparent approach to answering questions about multiplayer, and they weren't clear,
Yep.
and they were trying to maintain a little mystery, whereas it may have been better before the game's release to be a little more open and transparent and decisive in saying exactly what multiplayer was. But more importantly, I feel like since there's been the firm discovery that multiplayer is not what people thought it was going to be, that they still have yet to just step up and man up and just say, look, before the game's launch, we were trying to not discuss multiplayer a lot because we didn't want to show our hand. This issue where 2 players, showed up on the same planet and basically were in the same location and should have been able to see each other and worked. These are the specific technical reasons for why that happened. But then continuing to play coy feels a little like the best analog I can think about it is the 1+1. I don't know how much you guys are familiar with that, but like they were these guys who came up with a very inexpensive mobile phone and it required you to sign up to purchase the phone. But then as that went on and on and on and on and on and on, right, they were very coy and not very open about like when that was going to stop and like why are we still having to sign up and basically compete to buy the phone, and it's been out for months, and that's the closest thing I can think of to it, where things that any rational human being would think were a problem, and the company just refused to give a straight up answer about it.
I think the answer was drowned out, to be honest with you, because I saw some quotes. One of the sites put the quotes together from they did a really good in-depth story about all the different quotes from different people at Hello Games, which I believe is the developer. I hope I have that right. And it seemed like last year there was a lot of ambiguity, but as we get closer to launch, there was several quotes saying, no, there's no multiplayer in the game. But I don't think that message got out by any means. And what do you think, DB?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, so moving, I haven't had a chance to watch a whole lot of gameplay, but I've listened to plenty of podcasts unpacking, and a lot of people talking about the game on a variety of sites between IGN and Giant Bomb and a couple others. I think the idea is very much, what you guys are saying is that the hype was there. It's an amazing accomplishment for Hello Games. I mean, if you think about it, that these are the guys that did Joe Danger, and they're creating this. That if this was an indie game that launched on Steam, kind of without any fanfare, people would be really impressed about its technical feats. The fact that it is a little, maybe not as deep as people envisioned it. It's, but I think the one thing that I was hearing from IGN's podcasts and from Giant Bomb months before the game is that it's not, it's not the second coming of the end all be all of games. It's not exactly what we hoped it would be, but it doesn't mean it's bad. And so I think, especially as people get their hands on it and realize that it's not what they had hoped, I would hope that, I think that most sites aren't giving ratings based on what their assumptions were, but what the game actually is, But at the same time, for all the posts on forums and user scores, I have no doubt that a lot of that is tinged by the fact that it's not what they were hoping for. But I also, I think what you said, Zeus, is true, is that they were a little cagey about it, and their idea of multiplayer is that you could see stuff that other people created. Yeah, I mean that's you're somewhat of a shared world, but it's not necessarily what Gray was describing being able to go off and do with Wonder Boy is journey together and have that. So yeah, I think again it's an August game for a reason. It's not. It didn't launch in October or November around the holidays because it's not a big AAA game. It just happened to be. If so, let me throw this one out here and then I'll stop. If Sony had a stronger first-party development going on and a reasonably steady schedule of AAA games, this would not have, the overhype for this would never have created such high expectations.
Right. Yeah, to piggyback off that and finish your thought, when you were saying, it's not a AAA, big release kind of game. The second part of that sentence to me is it just had AAA big kind of game hype behind it, right? And then like Gray said, that just set some expectations that the game didn't meet. But people had kind of already formulated this opinion of like what this game was supposed to be.
Yeah, I think if it was a $39.99 game, there would be none of this criticism. And I think was it Adrift and I think even Recore is pegged at $39.99. I think that's a great way of saying, look, you're not going to get the same experience, the same multi-million-dollar blockbuster that you get with a Halo or a Destiny or a Call of Duty with this game. That's why it's not, $60. But I still think it looks like a great game. Looks like a really fun game. And kudos to the developer. I think they did something really, really cool and great. And hopefully the people who bought it are enjoying it. And with that, let's go on to some other news stories here. Zeus, let's talk about your news story, and then we'll do DBs.
Yeah, and I'll try and move quick. So just two news stories. Top 10 UK sales chart. F1 2016 pulls ahead of No Man's Sky. Now, of course, the top 10 UK sales chart is obviously not the North American sales chart. However, I do think it is pretty indicative of the U.S. market as well. So I have not bought an F1 game in a long time. I'm not entirely certain that I was aware that Codemasters is doing it. But of course, Codemasters are the guys who did Grid and do Dirt. So a lot of franchises that I've been spending a lot of time playing in. So I think this sounds like it's going to wind up being something that I check out. But, again, we just got done talking about the hype around No Man's Sky, and this is kind of one of those indicators, right, where recent media attention post-launch has definitely probably reduced confidence in people who had been thinking about buying the game, and it being the UK, it's not at all surprising that a Formula One game would be the one that would burble to the top, because I think they have a lot of interest in playing that game, and a lot of confidence in Codemasters to produce a good one. So, again, No Man's Sky may be on its way down from having grabbed that number one spot right out of the gate. The second story. Any questions or comments on that one?
No, I think that makes sense. That ties right in with what we were saying about the hype, and you're right about Formula One. Codemasters has been doing a good job with a lot of those series.
Yeah, undoubtedly. They've kind of achieved, I think, the equivalent of like the way EA has monopolized the sports arena for racing games. 'Cause, there's just not another developer/publisher that you think of or name as covering like multiple racing franchises as you do with Codemasters. So the second story I was going to bring up is head of Xbox marketing. I can't remember his first name, but Mr. Greenberg, in the comment that. Really, Phil Spencer's comment that this is the last gaming generation, Greenberg kind of picked up on that and expanded on it, and it's this whole notion that basically, they're saying that I guess the way I would articulate it is that Microsoft is now in the business of producing a unified, quick launching, customized PC for gaming that they call the Xbox. And that from here on out, what you will do is you'll not get super excited about a new Xbox, 2000 or whatever that they're going to release. You will simply replace your hardware with the next iteration in that family model, kind of like upgrading your Roku or your smartphone, right? You just buy a new one when the specs warrant it, but with the twist being that, if you were going to upgrade in the same family of appliances, you would just stick with the Xbox One and just replace it. So, so what are your guys' thoughts on that? That basically we're just going to get, kind of like the iPad, right? From here on out, we're just going to get the Xbox 2017 or whatever, year over year.
Yeah, I think that fits right with Phil Spencer's messaging from E3 is, and even before then, in March, they were talking about the end of generations and that a box that could be upgradable. And, I wonder how much of this is driven by the overall market trends with other consumer technology and how much of this was sped up by the fact that the Xbox performance is not what Microsoft would have hoped for, and so it gave them a little more incentive to get out and kind of push this envelope. So it feels kind of spot on. I think the interesting thing will be what those devices start to look like. Is it something that still ends up being a big old box by our TV, or is it something that starts to morph into something closer to the NVIDIA Shield, or even the Alienware PC boxes would be interesting to see where Microsoft ends up taking this.
Or maybe even consoles as a service.
Yep. Sony's Gaikai says hi and hopes for a good streaming like you just have now with your 5 seconds to upload. So great. You were holding up a NASCAR game in the middle of. At first, I thought you got up out of protest because Zeus was talking about the end of console generations, and it was, you were done. But then you came back with a NASCAR game. So was that a Codemasters game, or?
No. I was looking for. I have a few Codemasters games here, and I could not find them. They must be in boxes. But I did find my original copy of NASCAR Racing by Papyrus. I don't know if you can see that. It's a SVGA, so it's good. Right? And you'll see that big sticker there. Maybe I should put it on this side.
That's a CD-ROM version. Whoa!
Yes, no floppies to mess with. Now this game was so cool, it had rewind. So after you had a crash and your hood and your fender went flying everywhere, you could rewind it to see whose fault it was. And trust me, we did that when we were on business trips in hotel rooms. We would rewind and see, you crashed into me, no, you. And so we'd rewind to see who actually caused the accident. A great game. You couldn't turn the asphalt on. We used to joke that they had you have either just like a plain colored asphalt for the track, or you could have like a textured asphalt track. And we used to joke that you needed a Cray supercomputer to get that asphalt texture to work. Because on any other computer in the world, it brought it to its knees. Like I'm talking 2 frames per second knees, that one thing. Don't know. Don't mess with a bug or something. I don't know. But that was before the internet and we had the ability to quickly patch something. That said, no, I was looking for a Codemaster game. No, I think this is spot on, what Zeus is saying here and what Microsoft is doing here. And like you said, Paul, this is the best thing. And I think this is happening because the Xbox One is losing to the PS4. Now, they won in July, but, they lost like for 12 months straight before that, right? So, but that's good. That's good because now they're doing something that's, look, I have a 5-year-old gaming PC that can still play most games. Okay? No problem at all, right? And so why should it be that a 5-year-old console can't keep playing new games, right? PC game manufacturers, which almost everybody who makes games makes them for the PC, right? And not just consoles. Most games are released on PC as well. Not all, but many. And so they're used to having multiple resolutions and multiple CPUs and hey, we're going to have a low, medium, and high detail, right? So what's the big deal? You're going to have so much less variety in an Xbox lineup where you have an Xbox One, Xbox 2, Xbox 3 than you are with PCs. PCs, there's just millions of combinations of hardware and just one video card manufacturer has so many different versions. The overclocked, the not overclocked. It's just insane. So it's going to be easier for them to deal with multiple generations of the new Xbox One than it is going to be for them to deal with the PC, which they're already used to doing. So, no, I think this is great. I have an iPad too, and I still get new apps from the App Store that run on it. Now, I'm sure there are some apps that do not run on the iPad too. I'm sure of it. But whenever I need an app, it seems to work on my iPad too, and I love that. Now, my iPad 2 is kind of slow and clunky, but that's okay, right? So I think this is a smart move. We see it with Android phones where if you upgrade your Android phone, all your apps are there, right? And they've kind of done that with the 360 BC, backward compatibility with the digital games. So, no, I think this is the way to go. Release the Scorpio, make it really, really powerful. But here's my question. How do they make it easy to differentiate between the Xbox One, the Xbox One S? Well, that's easy. That's done. And then Scorpio. What are they going to call Scorpio to make it easy? Like we got iPhone 5, iPhone 5S, iPhone 6, iPhone 6 extra large. You get 3DS, 2DS. Well, maybe that's not a good example because you get the new 3DS and you really can't tell the old 3DS from the new 3DS because they just called it the new 3DS. But anyways, they need a nomenclature, and I think nobody probably agrees with this, but I think they should just call it the Xbox 2 and say Xbox 2 runs all Xbox One games natively. But what do you guys think? What should they name it? Because that's, for me, it seems like the right play. But what do they name it?
This is where people get paid way more than we do. So, but probably, I think what I would be interested in is to see what that debate is on. Do they give it an additional name? Do they give it a number? Or do they simply just call it the Xbox? This is your Xbox console or your Xbox family. It is what, and then there are iterations. You call it your PC. And whatever graphics card you put in it, you don't call it your NVIDIA 960 box. It's still your PC. So I wonder,
I think it needs to have a simple. Look. Kids are going to have Xboxes. They need to know if they can run the game or not. So at some point, there's going to be games that only run on Scorpio. For instance, VR. Well, how do you know if your Xbox is VR ready? Well, we know the Xbox One and the Xbox One S are not VR ready.
No, I think you're right.
Which one is?
that's really where it's the market confusion is what it's going to come down to. It's the same reason why, well, it's one of the many reasons why the Wii U has been a terrible seller for Nintendo, is that from the get-go there was massive market confusion about it. And so if you're thinking about a new box versus, and the hard part about it is, unlike a phone or a tablet where you're using it multiple times every single day and it's got a wider kind of cultural penetration, there is not the same understanding as for somebody walking in and buying it for a birthday present or a Christmas present, that it's not attached to, unlike when Microsoft was kind of playing around with it at the end of the 360's life, it's not attached to a payment plan. It's not attached to a contract or some other type of marketing and messaging there. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that will fit, but and I think that Microsoft's in a unique spot where Sony's coming out with their Neo. They're going to give it another name. They're going to be coming out with a slimmer PlayStation 4 as the reports are coming. But again, they're still calling it that. They're looking at selling you a closed system, where Microsoft certainly is moving in that direction of something that upgrades. And the nice thing about a closed system is it's pretty easy to name it something, stick it on a shelf, and market it, versus how do you make it from iteration to iteration.
Yeah, one thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So one thing you mentioned, DB, that I wanted to pose as a question to you guys is you said it's not a subscription model. My question is, what if it was? Would that interest you? What if the deal was, hey, we take an extra $10 fee per month onto your Xbox Live account, and for that fee, whenever the next iteration of the Xbox is available, we just swap it out like your cable box.
I hope they don't do that.
I mean, I think, again, I could see that there's a benefit to them as producers, as companies, to do it that way. I think in some ways there may even be a benefit to consumers, because then it is a clear path. You know that when you hit a certain spot and it doesn't work, you're going to upgrade. It's part of your package, is that you can, you're getting those updates pushed to you, and when that hardware is outdated, you've paid for that new DVR box or but the challenge there is it totally shifts the way that we think about games. For our generation that has grown up with all the stuff that's sitting behind gray right now, which is a solid state, and it is playable still if you can get the right specs and system to play it. Where if we move into something that is a service-based, it changes. Games become much more disposable than what they've been over the course of their history. And then it goes back to me, as somebody who is interested in games as a cultural medium. It goes back to that idea of, is a game simply just is it a pastime? Is it something to kill time, or is there an artistic expression to it? And I land on the side that games can do both, right? And the fact that mobile games can do both. You could have your Clash Royale or Age of Empires, whatever you guys were playing, gray, where it's a nice time killer, but it's not necessarily trying to say anything. But then you can have something like Sword and Sorcery on the iPad, which certainly had a knack for being a little more artistic.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. It's funny because I always thought it was strange that the phone company like Verizon will sell iPads, and I'm like, but for some people that's great. It's just a little extra money on their bill. So maybe cable companies or internet providers should sell consoles, Xboxes and PlayStation 4s. Why not? You just rent it $10 a month, and You can always upgrade it. So maybe that is a good idea, actually. Um, but I was going to say, one other name that they could use would be Xbox One Plus. I think that would work. I think in the stories I read too that it's going to be more expensive. This is not the $250 console that's going to be coming. I wouldn't be surprised if it was $599. Especially if it supports Oculus Rift. I wouldn't be surprised if it was $599. I don't know that they could get more than that. I just think there's no precedent for a console over $600, at least in current memory. But with that, guys, I'm looking at the time, and we are at our limit. So let's go around the room here and see if anybody has any final thoughts. We'll start with you, DB.
It's good to be back. Hopefully, the next time you see me, I won't be in fear of boxes collapsing on me. So thanks, Gray. Thanks for being patient as I moved.
Well, it's great to have you back, both you and Zeus. Zeus, any final thoughts?
Nope, no final thoughts. I think we talked. I think we exhausted all of our intellectual capacity on that show.
And I think we're also exhausted. At least I am. You look like you're tired too. So, on behalf of all of us, myself, Greylock3491, Zeuxidamas, DBQHams, thank you all for listening, and feel free to reach out to us. We love hearing it. Like when MU Jedi and Stone Cold reached out to me. That was great. I love to hear that they were listening, and I love to have the opportunity to invite them to come on the show and just talk about what we're talking about. So join the conversation. You can visit us at our website, bandofgamers.net, and we're on YouTube now, and iTunes still, and everywhere else we can try to figure out where to put the podcast. So we'd love to hear from you all, and until the next time we talk, peace.